Hello YouTube, this is Adrian and welcome back to the next video here in Adrian's Tech Base. Today we'll continue with another video card review from the lot. Our special little guest will be AMD's Radeon HD 6670. This is a mid-range graphics card released all the way back in 2011 at $99 MSRP, which definitely sounds odd with today's mid-range cards starting at around triple that. Codenamed Turks, it features 480 stream processors, 24 texture mapping units and 4 ROPs, all built on 40nm node. Core itself runs at 800 MHz stock. It's part of AMD's Terascale architecture, which sadly has not aged gracefully. The variant we have here is held back by its GDDR3 memory, which it has a whole gigabyte of. Clocking the same as the core at 800 MHz. The memory is fed through a 128-bit bus. There are also a GDDR5 variants, which would be definitely a better performer, but trust me, neither of them are a solid choice going into 2025, even if you were to get them for free. The card itself is fully powered by the PCIe slot with its TDP being 66 watts. The problem with these older Terascale cards is the fact that AMD cut driver support very fast, back in 2016. Sure, there are modded drivers, but they only help slightly. This leads to quite a curiosity, because last time we had a look at GT730, a card that should be at least 30 to 40% slower, but in some cases it has better performance thanks to newer drivers. But not to spoil the results, you will have to see it for yourself. For the current while, we'll be sticking to our test platform, which features i5-8600, a B360M motherboard and 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, clocking in at 2666 MHz. This will all be powered by a ChiefTech 600-watt power supply. I do plan on upgrading this system, but that would be only once I move to my new apartment. Yet again, the capture was done internally, so the recordings are not representative of actual performance, but rather of the visual quality the card outputs. The figures though are taken without the recording in place. Our little boy has sadly decided to throw a tantrum at any little bit of overclocking we tried. Even a 20 MHz uplift on the core caused it to be unstable in some scenarios, therefore today I decided we will forgo the overclocking altogether. After all, what's the point of testing 10 MHz uplift? Benchmark suite will be essentially unchanged from last time, only addition being Unigen Heaven benchmark. With all this blabbing out of the way, here are the results. Starting off with Euro Truck Simulator 2, we are running it at 720p with a low preset and 100% resolution scale. Across our benchmark run that lasted around 5 minutes of city and highway driving, we scored 36 FPS average with 21 FPS for 1% low and 14 FPS for 0.1% low. Following this, we have Skyrim. This is the original 2011 release. Running at 1080p low, we were able to squeeze out 45 FPS average with 1% low at 16 and 0.1% at 13. The game suffered from weird frame pacing issues, which didn't quite render it unplayable, but it definitely wasn't smooth. Civilization 6 actually came out much better than I was expecting, bearing in mind the results that the GT730 delivered. On 1080p lowest settings in the built-in graphics benchmark we achieved 26 FPS average and our 1% low was at 21. This is definitely not a superb result, but actually something that in-game could be bearable, seeing as it's not a very fast-paced game either way. CS2 I think would be a prime example of the issues with the drivers I mentioned at the start. At 720p on lowest settings with FSR performance on, the card only achieved a measly 36 FPS on average and 21 FPS for 1% low. Sure, some of this slowdown can be attributed to its lack of VRAM, but I'm sure this game could run much better on this card if the drivers were a little bit more optimized. Assetto Corsa seemed to have a problem with our graphics card. Using 1080p low settings, the game seemingly applied a 30 FPS lock. Despite VSync being disabled, it just straight up refused to go above it. Also, utilization in this title wasn't hinted 100%, suggesting there may have been some problems on the driver side too. With all this in mind, we did average 29.8 FPS over the course of built-in benchmark. For our 1% low, we are looking at 27 with 0.1% lows landing at 18 FPS. Once again, the card being beaten by the much less powerful GT 730. Moving on, we have Witcher 3. This 2015 title sadly produced yet another disappointing result for our card. In 1024 by 768 with lowest settings, the card barely managed 19 FPS. However, there were major status which are reflected in our 1% and 0.1% lows. These were 6 and 5 respectively. Our last gaming benchmark will be GTA 5. This is of course the Legacy Edition. In 720p lowest settings we get an experience slightly better than the 7th gen consoles. The average FPS while cutting about Los Santos was 42, with 1% lows of 34 FPS and 0.1% lows of 26. Definitely playable if you're in dire need for a game that would run on this card. Then we have our synthetic benchmarks. In Unigine Heaven, we scored a pathetic 187 points on 1080p Ultra. On top of this, the recording somehow ended up being completely chopped, as you can see. To round it all off, we have Firestrike. The result we got presented was 987 points. This, as mentioned, makes it around 30% faster than GT 730, yet still the game benchmarks were not quite able to get there. Summing it all up would be quite simple. Whatever you do not even consider this GPU. There are plenty of other better options which are going to run 10 times better and most likely have a better driver support. The only realistic use case I see for a graphic card such as this would be a display adapter. With no external power connectors, you should be able to slap it into virtually any system. But let's be real, why would you need more than one screen if all you could do on them is limited web browsing? This was the HD 6670 for us in 2025. Thank you so much for tuning into this video and I hope to see you in another one. Goodbye.